What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing? It's Monday. Ooh, what a way to have to start Mondays. Mondays in general are just bad. Thank God we have Thanksgiving coming up because I know some of y'all are probably like, man, I just can't wait to get that break from work, especially following this type of an Eagles loss. I get it, guys. I get it. I used to be there, and I remember how much an Eagles loss messed up my entire week. Like, you talk about productivity, there was no productivity on losses like this when I was in the general labor force. I can tell you that straightforward. Look, I haven't had time to go through the all 22 yet, but I did start to rewatch again on the basically on the rebroadcast on NFL.com. And I watched the first two offensive drives, the first two offensive series for the Eagles. Okay. And I came out with a little opinion about what's going on here. And I have to really get into the all 22 and look at particular plays and where the breakdowns occurred. But I can tell you from the first two drives, which let's begin. Why does someone like me watch the first two drives of a football game? What does that tell you? Well, generally speaking, that's the game plan stuff, right? That's the stuff you plan and practice all week. That's the first 10 to 15 scripted plays of any offense. Like, you get a sense of what the strategy was going to be to attack Seattle. I got to be honest with you, there was some really good in there, and there was some kind of like, what are we doing in there? And what I'm going to do here, guys, is I want to start off by talking about what I thought was probably the best play, one of the best plays of the entire game. Okay. Arguably the best play of the game. And I'm going to run it for you, and then I'll describe exactly what's going on. Okay.
The idea that the quarterback will be protecting himself in the running game goes out the window a little bit. Carson Wentz has had the...
All right, guys, let's talk about that play. So here's the deal. I'm going to be looking at notes I've taken down. So if I'm looking away from the screen, guys, that's what's going on here. To begin with, let's talk about where we're at. We're coming first play of the second drive of the game. Okay. The Eagles come out basically for the first time in this game in an 11-man personnel package. Okay. In response, Seattle matches up, which they did for the majority of that game, minus the 1 third down play from the previous series where they were in nickel. They basically stayed in a base 4-3. They were playing a lot of cover 3 and cover 1, kind of mixing it up in their coverage schemes. In this particular play, I think they're in cover 3. And the reason I say that is earlier in that, if you go back and you watch that again, guys, on NFL.com, you'll see McDougal waves off the cornerback in that play. To me, that's a pretty good indication that, hey, stick to your side of the field, cover your third of the field. I got this. That, generally speaking, tells me you're probably not in cover 1. That's probably cover 3, but I could be wrong there. It could be a man. Generally speaking, if you're in cover 1, that's a man assignment. Cover 3 is still kind of a zone concept there. So basically, guys, this is what I see on this particular play, guys. And if you slow it down, you can see how good of a play design this is. And I'll run it again in a slowed down version so you can see what I'm pointing out. Here's the deal. Seattle comes out in that base 43, right? And what you get is Wentz under the shotgun. You got Miles Sanders in the backfield about 5-6 yards behind him. Wentz takes the hike under the center. He begins with, hits him with play action, fakes it like it's a handoff, hits him with play action, and then fakes an end around to Greg Ward Jr., and then fakes a running back screen before the true intent of this play is shown, which is a quarterback option scramble. This is a built-in run for Carson Wentz. Brilliant play design. Best play design I saw in the entire game. I'm not sure why that creativity did not extend past the second drive of the football game. That was a hell of a creative play. So I'll show it to you again so you guys can see exactly what I saw. You got play action, fake it end around, fake it running back screen into what looks like to me is an option thing. It's a designed run for Wentz with an option to Greg Ward Jr., which you see Wentz kind of fakes like he's going to dump it off to Ward Jr. and then he makes them oversell themselves and cuts it off for about an 8-yard gain. It was a hell of a play design. Safety McDougal comes running into the screen, signaling with his hands. He thinks he knows the play call. Just what? Guys, I'm sorry I got to break this up, but because of fair use rules, I can only show you like 5-second clips. I might be able to get away with a second or two longer, but if I continuously show you a clip, that's going to be a problem. They're going to strike me for that. So the next part that comes, guys, is you're going to see Ertz is going to motion as a wingback, looking like basically he's setting up as a lead blocker for a running play, which makes sense. You got Wentz under center. You got Miles Sanders 5 yards off in the backfield. Like it would make sense. Like you would understand where the Seattle defense is getting this from. All right, Ertz officially sets himself up as a wingback. McDougal waves off. All right, guys, this is all part of the razzle-dazzle of this play. To show you one thing, make you think you know what you're seeing. But we're going to hit you with that little bit of that razzle-dazzle and really confuse you after the snap. That play action and then that faked end around. The continuation of this play into now essentially being a faked running back screen. I mean, it's 3 different things they're showing you. Play action, end around, faked wide receiver screen or running back screen into basically an option play for Wentz running. This creativity is what we need to see throughout the entire game. There's your faked running back screen. I wanted to take some time today to give some positives here, guys. I mean, there's a lot of negatives about this football game. We're going to have to get into the negatives throughout this week. But look, enough's enough, man. We got to see some positive before we start killing ourselves with all these negatives, because there's a lot of negatives in this game, guys. A lot. Now I'm going to give you a couple more positives that I saw from my perspective of not diving into the All-22 yet, but just watching the replay of this game. So, to begin with, what I did see is the Eagles being a little more concerted effort from the offensive play calling to get Wentz under center during running plays, and then running out of that formation. I think that the Eagles are much more effective running from underneath center than they are from running from the shotgun. Definitely in the first 2 series of the football game, they did run out of shotgun here and there, but there was a more concerted effort. That run under center. To me, that was a positive. The other positive I saw, they used, from what I could see from the first 2 drives of this football game, they used J.J. Arcega-Whiteside quite a bit. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was not only used, mostly through the formations that we looked at during the first 2 series of the game, but in addition to that, he was also used in the red zone, which when you go back to the New England game, the one thing I didn't understand about the Eagles was we would get into these red zone situations, we'd drive the ball, and then they pulled J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. It's like, what the hell are you doing? At least this game, those little things, from what I could see so far, made sense. Okay, execution isn't there. However, at least the finer details of things weren't making you scratch your head in the first 2 drives of the game going, what in the hell are you doing? That's going to come later. We'll get into that later in the week. But at least as we started out the game, it's no surprise to me that we had a 3-0 lead, because the execution, the game planning, things like that were a little more consistent in those first 2 series. Although the next thing I'm going to jump into is going to have to deal with some of the missed opportunities that were in this drive, these first 2 drives. So we're going to transition to that right now. Guys, I wanted to show you that clip there because I've heard a lot of flack coming from people where they're saying like, oh, Wentz isn't reading defenses. He's not audibling. He's not. Guys, if I honestly saw what you were saying on film, I would tell you. But when I look at the film, I don't see that criticism holding any weight. Right there, he hard counts, okay? He hard counts. When he hard counts, the defense shows itself. He then goes up, calls Python, audibles into another play. And then that play does get Ertz open. So I don't see that criticism. Now I'm going to show you the criticism I do see on this play. So just give me a second.
Seahawks come with a blitz. Wentz has time, though. Throws behind Ertz.
Guys, there's 5 keys to throwing the perfect football. And you guys who have ever been to a quarterback camp, you know this. Number 1 is the ball carriage. Number 2 is the ball shelf. Number 3 is the base. Number 4 is your weight distribution. And then number 5 is just simply put is your posture, which is bringing it all together. Let's go through those things real quick, guys. That way you understand what we're saying. When you say ball carriage is the it's like the pre-arm motion before you bring your arm up to throw a football. And the easy way to think about it is if you're right-handed, right, two hands on the ball, if you're right-handed, it should be slightly tucked in towards you. It should be basically in front of your sternum, closer to the right breast area, your right pec, okay? If you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, it's the opposite, okay? So it's supposed to be like that. So from your ball carriage to your ball shelf is a movement that's very important to a quarterback, guys. So when you go to your ball shelf, now you're talking about the angle of your arm. Number one, you never want to go down. If you go down, that's how quarterbacks get stripped. It's really bad mechanics when that happens to them. But number two, it really messes with. This is when you hear guys like Patrick Mahomes and Carson Wentz and Lamar Jackson. They're like, oh, like they can throw from multiple arm angles. Guys, it's not a good thing. That means you have shitty mechanics. Okay? It just means you're getting away with it. Defenses will adjust and they're going to get you. You keep doing that. So basically what that is, guys, is going from the ball carriage to the shelf is basically wanting to keep your arm at a 90-degree angle. Not too far forward, not too far back. Never have the ball facing upward to the sky. Always at a little bit of an angle, okay? And then from there, it's a clean throwing motion. So when you're throwing, okay, it's a clean motion, and your non-throwing hand should be over your heart. We used to call it the Pledge of Allegiance, making sure you have the Pledge of Allegiance, okay? And then that gets into basically your base. Your base is really about how you stand, your foot placement. Basically, once you get back into that, you're stepping back and now you're getting into the carriage, you want your legs to be about shoulder width apart, not too far. Don't open your hips too much. Don't close them too much. Shoulder width apart, okay? Now you're talking about different tendencies of quarterbacks. I was a bouncer, guys. You might as well call me Tigger because I was bouncing. The other thing you'll see a lot of football players do is that they'll do what they call the gravel crush, right? The rapid movement of the feet. Guys, that's anxiety. It's nervous glitches, and it's really bad for mechanics. And sadly enough, there are a lot of youth coaches who teach this crap. That's not the way football is played. They don't know what the hell they're doing. From there, it's weight distribution. This is a really subjective area of the conversation, guys. But generally speaking, what it's talking about is keeping your weight on the back leg. Generally speaking, you'll hear people say, like, oh, it's 60% on your back leg and 40% on your front leg. It's just like swinging a golf club, right? It's where you balance your hips and your weight. Well, it's a similar concept when we're talking about weight distribution for a quarterback, guys. It's how they open it up, okay? And the last thing you need to know, guys, is what they call your posture is bringing that all together. You screw up anywhere in there, then your posture's off, right? So if you're in your base, right, and you start hunching forward or you hunch back, you got bad posture. Like the ball's going to be all over the place if you do that. Well, when you get into this part of like coming up into that weight distribution from the base to the weight distribution, basically, so you're going essentially from ball carriage, okay, ball carriage out to the ball shelf. What you're talking about now is what they call the toe tap, the shifting of your weight. So what we're basically talking about is the distribution of weight, that 60 to 40 mix, guys. So we're talking about getting your hips properly in the football game, in the mechanics of it, right? So when you toe tap on that toe tap, that's the dead giveaway that you're shifting your weight now. You should be at that 60 to 40. And I know it's very subjective, but it's easy to spot when you're not there. Because if you overset, then you look like a pitcher throwing a baseball to home plate. Because like you're gonna come and your whole body's gonna turn, and like you're gonna like fall forward like a pitcher. A quarterback should be kind of the proper placement is like they're coming, they're shifting that weight from the toe tap. So now they got that 60% of their force, right, on that back leg. So when they come up, you should really just see kind of the twisting of the hips, the release of the football, okay? And then you should see the back of the cleats, okay? Back of the cleats. You really don't want them to fall forward because then that tells us that your body position's now off. Like you're going to be inaccurate. When I look at Carson Wentz, what I see is a quarterback who, to be quite honest, is not in the right throwing motion. He's delayed, and in that delayment, you get flat-footed. Carson Wentz has a tendency to be very flat-footed at times. If you watch that play again, and I'll run it again, guys, you'll see Carson Wentz's mechanics are off. From the time he hits his toe tap to the point where he starts to distribute that weight, there's a window. He waited too long. He held the ball too long, a second too long. And I don't think it was necessarily that like the coverage messed with him and then he held it too long. He just got into the stance too fast. And it caused him to hold, which meant that now his weight distribution is off. Because when I looked at it, his ball carriage wasn't perfect, but it was adequate. His shelf wasn't perfect, but it was adequate. I mean, he wasn't like way up here or way back. He wasn't way out of whack with it. I mean, his arm wasn't completely like the Pledge of Allegiance, his non-throwing arm. But I mean, it was, if you watch, it's in the chest area. Like he's got it there. It's that movement from the weight. It's the transfer of weight. He has a glitch. It causes him to throw it off balance. That's what happened. In my opinion, this amateur's opinion, that's what happened.
The Hawks come with a blitz. Wentz has time, though. Throws behind Ertz.
All right, guys, on the 3rd and 9 play down around the 10-yard line, guys, it's really obvious what happens. This one is not a mystery to me at all. This one is the most obvious, flawed fundamentals of football I've watched out of an Eagles quarterback in a long time. Don't get me wrong, I've seen others do it, but this one was really bad for a guy in his 4th year. And I got to tell you, if I was the coaching staff, Press Taylor would probably be fired, man. I'm a dude here who's only really been to a quarterback camp like once in my life. I really only played like up until the age of about 17. Like I can do a better job than Press Taylor, guys. I'm telling you flat out. Watch Wentz. I'm going to show you exactly what you're going to see. He's going to set, and he's going to bounce, and he's going to bounce. And then he's going to open his hips, and then he's going to be off center, and then he's going to sail the football. This is not a mystery. All right, guys, watch the bounce. Ba-boom. Ba-boom. Did you see the bounce? From one Tigger to another. I know the bounce when I see the bounce because I was so guilty of this myself. Ba-boom. Ba-boom. And then his posture goes off. He starts leaning. This isn't a mystery. Just watch, guys. Now you're going to watch his hips. Watch his foot placement. Guys, this is not a mystery. Press Taylor, I'm sorry. I would fire his ass. Guys, I want you to imagine you're playing second base and you open your hips like this to throw the ball to first. If you want some good news to this, guys, for the first 2 offensive drives, the mistakes that I witnessed there from Carson Wentz, they're very correctable. These are very, very correctable. This is just taking a guy who's playing football at a very high level, so he knows it, and just reminding him, hey, man, look, you're bouncing. Your weight distribution's off. You're leaning. Your posture's all off. Like, look at the way your left foot is falling, bro. Like, your hips are so wide open. Like, if you try to throw across your body like that, come on, man. You would never hit first base if you're a baseball player. You're never going to throw the perfect ball like that. If you're a quarterback and you're trying to hit a receiver in the flats or running back in the flats, like, these are really easily corrected mistakes here. Now, I need to dive into film for later in the game because what I was seeing from the eye test, not necessarily from studying the film, tells me that what you're getting, guys, is a different situation later in the game. To me, that situation has a lot more to do with like issues of letting people get inside of your head and taking unnecessary risk, knowing there's no way, like you have a delusional belief in your arm strength to try to throw that ball to Matthews when he got picked off on. He saw the coverage. There's no way he didn't read that coverage, guys. He's too good of a quarterback for that. That's not what happened. He had a delusional belief that he could still fit it in there. That, you know what, I'm not going to get criticized for holding on to the ball too long. I'm not going to get criticized for not trying to throw it downfield. I'm just going to try to fit it in there with all my athletic ability. Can't do that. Let people in your head. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. My name is Steven Hyder. This is Gate City Sports Channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Guys, I'm going to keep this stuff rolling. I'm going to be diving into a lot of film this week, guys. I'm going to be trying to do my best to make sense of this crap we laid on the field. All right? All right, guys, you know what time it is. It sucks, but hey, I'm doing it. I'm an Eagles fan. I don't care what the score is. E-A-E-L-E-S. Look, one game at a time, one win at a time. That's all we need. You beat Dallas and Philly and you win the games you're supposed to win, it ain't over. I'm not saying I have faith in that, but it ain't over.